Duncan, thank you. For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News legal analyst Rikki Klieman. She's in San Francisco. Rikki, what do you make of today's verdict?
I wasn't surprised, Elaine. I think that the big difference between Trial 1 and Trial 2 is at this point you have 6 accusers, Andrea Constant supported by 5 others. The judge instructed the jury that they could consider the other 5 about a common scheme or plan. That is, that it was alleged and apparently proven that Mr. Cosby lured women to places that he controlled. He then drugged them, and then he sexually assaulted them. You cannot be surprised when you have a number of 6.
Well, so Cosby was found guilty on 3 counts of indecent aggravated assault. Explain what those charges mean and what exactly jurors had to look at in order to reach their verdict.
What we have to understand is that although there are 3 charges, 3 felonies, each carrying a 10-year penalty, it really is about one act and one act only, which is not to diminish it. The first is simply indecent sexual assault without her consent, that is, against her will. The second one was that she was intoxicated, and the third one was that she was unconscious. So the story behind all 3, which would be one act, was that he gave her these 3 pills. They rendered her unconscious and therefore not able to consent. So it would have been an inconsistent verdict if they had ever come back with 1 or 2 and not the other.
Well, Cosby has many accusers. Why did prosecutors choose Andrea Constant?
Andrea Constant was the only accuser whose case came within the statute of limitations. Pennsylvania happens to have a long statute of limitations. It's 12 years. All of the other accusers had events that they claimed happened, but they happened so long ago that they didn't fall within the statute of limitations. Therefore, all their actions were barred criminally. So Andrea Constant was the only one they had. In Trial 1, you could also see that her case in and of itself was not the strongest because she maintained contact, she had phone conversations, additional meetings, brought him gifts. But that's a different time, Elaine, than after the Me Too movement. There was a rape trauma expert who testified right off the top in this case who explained how someone reacts in a situation like this. So it's a very different time of life from the summer of last year to now.
Well, Cosby's lawyers said they will appeal the verdict. Do we have any sense how likely are they to succeed?
Well, one never knows what an appellate court will do, but they certainly have a litany of issues. And we have to remember it goes all the way back, because Bill Cosby's lawyers will say not only what happened at the trial, but they will go back to the original idea that Bill Cosby claims that the former DA told him he would not be prosecuted, and on that basis, he participated in a civil deposition in a lawsuit brought by Andrea Constant, where he admitted that he had gotten prescriptions for Quaaludes when he wanted to have sex with women. This case was about Benadryl, but there always was a question as to what Andrea Constant had ever been given by Bill Cosby. So when the deposition testimony came in, that created a second issue of appeal for Bill Cosby. Then you go on to the fact that there was a move to have the judge recuse himself for reasons having to do with his wife's activities, and then you have exculpatory evidence in witnesses that the judge did not permit. So this is not a frivolous appeal by any means. It does not mean it will necessarily be successful.
Rikki, you mentioned the Me Too movement a moment ago. How much do you think that was actually a factor in the jury reaching this decision? And do you think that the Me Too movement will impact sentencing at all?
Well, the Me Too movement has changed our culture seismically. It is absolutely transformational. At the time of Cosby Trial 1, the uncorroborated word of one accuser alone, especially someone who had continued contact with the defendant, that people said, well, it's just an accusation. How do we really know that's proof beyond a reasonable doubt? The pendulum, by virtue of Me Too, has now swung completely the other way, where now we do believe the uncorroborated word of an accuser. And with that, here, she had 5 other supporters. So the Me Too movement, although a juror may say that he or she will not let that enter their deliberations, after all, they are human beings. Our life and our society has changed from trial 1 to trial 2. Timing is everything in life. If Bill Cosby had had trial 2 in September or October of last year, before the dominoes fell from Ailes to O'Reilly to Weinstein and others, that it may have been a different result, but perhaps not once you have 6.
All right, Rikki Klieman, thank you very much, Rikki, for your insight.